The Dallas Cowboys sit at 1-1, the Baltimore Ravens at 0-2. Dallas is coming off a horrible loss to the Saints in their home opener. Baltimore is trying to find their first win of the season after a disappointing loss to the Raiders in Week 2. Both of these teams are trying to find a way to get back on track, so who will it be? This is a Dallas Cowboys preview of Week 3 against Lamar and the Ravens. Let's get into it. Quickly, let's go over the injury report for both teams, just highlighting a few things. For the Ravens, safety Kyle Hamilton was a limited participant in practice with a back issue. He was upgraded from a do not practice on Wednesday. And the same goes for Nate Wiggins, the cornerback and first-round pick of the Ravens. He has a neck and concussion issue. He was a do not practice on Wednesday, but a limited participant on Thursday. Both of those guys are going to be something to watch as we get closer to game day, what their statuses look like, especially with Kyle Hamilton. He is such a big piece to that Ravens secondary, and if he can't go, that is an advantage Dallas. For the Cowboys, they had one do not participate, and that was Mazi Smith with a back issue. For the second day in a row, Mazi missed practice with a back injury that he suffered in the early part of Wednesday's practice. His trajectory towards playing in this game is not looking good. Can't just not practice all week and expect to be ready to go on Sunday. And with what we know about the Cowboys' depth and talent at the defensive tackle position, that actually kind of hurts. As for their limited participants, CeeDee Lamb and Trayvon Diggs were out there on the field getting some work after not practicing on Wednesday with their injuries. Tight end Jake Ferguson was also a limited participant with his knee issue. I'm really interested to see if he's going to go in this game. I mean, just in week 1, we were worried about him missing the entire year, and there's a possibility that he's back in week 3. That's good that he's limited and he's not a DNP. Some other limited guys, Malik Hooker, John Stevens Jr., and Jalen Brooks. Luckily for the Cowboys, Marshawn Nealon with his calf issue was a full participant on Thursday and expects to be on Friday as well. Now that we got all of that out of the way, let's hop into the Cowboys' keys to victory. Key number 1, stop the run. Look, for everything that I love, please stop the run. If the Ravens can run the ball at will, it's going to be a long day for everybody. We saw what happened last week, and Derek Carr is nowhere near as dynamic as Lamar Jackson. If the Ravens run the ball well, it opens up everything for them offensively. Read options, play action, deep shots. This defense will get picked apart, like we saw in week 2, if they can't stop the run first. And that starts with their defensive tackles. They need better play out of that group. The Cowboys have 3 of the 5 lowest graded defensive tackles in the league the first 2 weeks. Mazi Smith, Linval Joseph, and Jordan Phillips rank at the bottom in terms of PFF grades. Now, I know that PFF doesn't mean everything, but that's not good. In the middle of that defensive line, the Cowboys got to find a way to keep those linebackers clean, not get pushed 10 yards off the ball, and stop Derrick Henry before he gets in a groove. I know it's a cheap and easy thing to say to just stop the run, but I really think that this entire game is predicated on stopping the run. And if the Cowboys can't, it's going to be a painfully long day. But stopping Derrick Henry is a good way to slow down Lamar Jackson as well. And that takes us to key number 2, contain and pressure Lamar. Before we continue, I wanted to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, BetUS. Football, basketball, ice hockey, baseball, whatever you need, BetUS has you covered. My favorite part is that you can filter by props, conferences, divisions, playoff specials, anything that you want. It's right there at your fingertips. So head over to BetUS and get an awesome deal with the deposit bonus and start playing this Sunday. They have an awesome promotion right now where you get a 150% bonus on your first deposit and then 125% on your next 2. And if you win, they have you covered with fast and easy payout. Thank you so much to BetUS for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get back into it. Everyone likes to say, make Lamar beat you with his arm. And I agree. Although he can do that too, I'd like to take my chances with Lamar throwing the ball much more than him running around the field wild and potentially breaking off chunk plays of 30, 40-yard runs. Against Kansas City, Lamar had 16 carries for $120, 5 carries for 45 yards against the Raiders. While I'd rather make Lamar sit in the pocket, he can beat you with his arm if Dallas gives him all day long. They still have to generate pressure, preferably like they did in week 1. Week 2, Derek Carr just sat back there and picked him apart. And somebody other than Micah Parsons has to step up. Teams are doubling, chipping, and running away from Micah. The Cowboys got to find a way to get pressure with 4, change up their looks, pick their spots for blitzes, but most importantly, against Lamar Jackson, all of that has to be controlled. For the defensive line, they have to stay in their gaps, don't start freestyling, don't start stunning up front, and most importantly, contain those edges so Lamar's not killing you on the ground. My first thought with this game was using Overshown as a quarterback spy. Because of the athleticism, because of the ranginess that he has, it could help limit those big runs when plays do break down. So our first 2 keys: stop Derrick Henry and contain Lamar. Key number 3, find some kind of running back production. One of the most disappointing things this season has been the Cowboys' run game. In week 3, I just need some sort of production. Somebody in that running back room has to step up and take some pressure off this passing game. Right now, the leading rusher has 56 yards through 2 games for the Cowboys offense. And surprisingly, Deuce Vaughn, based on the stats, has been the best at forcing missed tackles and yards after contact. And everyone thinks that Deuce is just the absolute worst running back, so that kind of tells you how this unit has looked so far this year. And look, the Ravens defense is tough. They allowed just 1.6 yards per carry last week to the Raiders and under 4 yards per carry to the Chiefs in week 1. But this Cowboys offense is really good at being stale. Mike McCarthy, Brian Schottenheimer, they got to find a way to run the ball. Get creative, use some eye candy, stop running it straight up the middle with no motion before the snap. And also, Mike, challenge the edges, run tosses, sweeps. Can we get some pin and pull action like the Saints were doing against the Cowboys last week? Against the Ravens, your run game needs to show up at least a little bit. Key number 4, better red zone play. And this goes for the offense and defense. The offense certainly hasn't been the worst part of Dallas's losses, but it definitely hasn't lived up to expectations. Dallas has kicked 8 field goals in the last 2 weeks. Now, I know all of those aren't in the red zone, but you'd like to be turning some of those into touchdowns. And the Dallas offense is moving the ball, but when they get into the red zone, they just stall out. Right now, the Cowboys are 29th in the league in red zone touchdown percentage. Just 25% of the time, they're actually punching it in for a touchdown. Meanwhile, the Ravens defense is letting teams score touchdowns on 50% of their red zone trips, which isn't an insanely high number, certainly not as high as the Cowboys. Dallas needs to take advantage and finish drives if they want to win this game. On the other side, the Cowboys are the worst red zone team in terms of defense, which isn't a good combination. You can't score touchdowns, but you also allow more touchdowns than any other team in the league in terms of red zone stuff. Against Baltimore, both sides of the ball have to be better in the red zone. They have to execute offensively down there because it's been such a struggle, and the defense has to find ways to get stops. Against Baltimore, both sides of the ball have to be better in the red zone. And then our final key of the day, you need better wide receiver play. You guys know I just made a video about the Cowboys wide receiver room, but lucky for Dallas, the Ravens secondary hasn't been the same this year as we've seen in the past. And they have injuries that are starting to kind of add up with Kyle Hamilton and Nate Wiggins. Last week, the Ravens defense held the Raiders to 1.6 yards per carry, but still gave up 26 points to Gardner Minshew. Yes, Gardner Minshew. So in this game, Dallas needs to take advantage of that, and that starts with better wide receiver play than we've seen so far. Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks, Kavontae Turpin, Ryan Flournoy, who I made my video about. They have to get some separation and help out Dak in the offense. You can't rely on CD for every big play that this offense needs. But I'm going to be honest, I'm still really worried. The Ravens are 0-2, and it feels like a do or die game for them. Yes, even in week 3. I know that the Cowboys are 1-1. They need to avoid a loss so they don't fall below 500, but it just feels like the Ravens need it more. And coming into the season, we thought that the Ravens were a playoff team. So if they lose this, I think it's a big shock to them, to the media, that they might not be a playoff team in 2024. I'm also concerned about Mike Zimmer and the Cowboys defense after last week. And now you're facing Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry Even though Henry isn't quite what he used to be, still makes me extremely nervous. I think the Ravens pull this one off 28-26. I don't think it looks like the Saints game from a week ago, but I rarely pick against Dallas. I rarely pick them to lose games. But until they show me that they can stop the run, get pressure up the middle, and have better wide receiver play, I'm going to lean with the Ravens. So let me know your score predictions down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye.